Salutations. Guess what we're working on today? Sorry, Ken. But I'm working on my XJ. I'm actually going to be doing a little bit of deferred maintenance. Going to do some cooling system maintenance. If your cooling system is in good working order, it shouldn't overheat. Now I know you'll do some upgrades, put a lift kit on it, re-gear it, put bigger tires on it, put a bunch of weight on it, you're working the engine harder, you might have a tendency to overheat. But the problem with these XJs is that there's not a whole lot of real estate for a radiator. That radiator has got to reside, it's less than a foot tall. You got 1 foot of space here to throw a radiator in. And it's roughly, the core is a little over 31 inches wide. Probably the cheapest upgrade to keep your engine from overheating is to make sure your fan shroud is over the mechanical fan, that you have your electric fan is working properly. And actually, if you have an earlier model XJ with a five blade straight bladed fan, do the upgrade to the 10 bladed helical fan. Link in the description. Flows a lot more air. And then of course, make sure that the viscous clutch on your mechanical fan isn't worn out. Popular upgrade is to do the ZJ viscous clutch fan upgrade. I'm not doing that. And my problem isn't overheating. I'm not having an overheating issue. The only time this thing starts to get warm is if I'm stuck in traffic in a 110 degree heat day and I got the air conditioning cranked and there's no air flowing over the radiator. These things are important. They're integral to the performance of your cooling system. But don't forget to check your antifreeze. If you're using standard green glycol antifreeze and that stuff's 4 or 5 years old, it's probably time to replace it. That's the case, in my case, is the radiator juice is 4 years old. I think I rebuilt this engine about 4 years ago when I had a piston skirt break, and I put new antifreeze in it then. It's been 4 years. Another thing you can check too is the core of your air conditioning condenser, if you have that, or the core of your radiator, or both. If you live in a really dirty climate or a really bug-infested climate, you might want to check this to make sure that you're not plugged. Let me get some light on the situation. It's not really bad, but you can see there's bugs and debris and stuff in here. And if I took a light and I shined it through the radiator, I can see a lot of blockage here. Those fins get clogged with dirt. You need to wash those out. Don't use a power washer, just use a regular hose. And I'm going to be taking my radiator out and give it a good inspection to make sure it's all good. If you open up the fill neck and you don't see nice green antifreeze, but rather it looks like, I don't know, hot chocolate, man, you better get the checkbook out because it's fitting to get expensive. Right along the edge here, a little bit of brown, and let me get a flashlight. No, that's a little too bright. Holy cow. Okay, you see the rust staining on the neck there, and I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but if you'll try to look through the coolant down into the bottom there, you can see some sediment. I can see some sediment. When I had this engine apart, I power washed the inside of the engine block, the inside of the head, so I know that there's not a whole lot of deposits inside the engine. And this engine isn't original to this truck. It's a replacement engine. I'm sure of it. And once I get in there, I'll show you why I believe that to be so. But back when I tore this engine down, there was no ridge. There was still a crosshatch. The engine's spec'd out in terms of measurements for the bore and everything. There's not a lot of taper in it. The problem that I'm having is that my heat's going away. I'm not getting a lot of heat. Now this chassis has over 300,000 miles on it, and I don't have any reason to believe that the heater core isn't original to this truck. So I'm pretty certain either the water pump is starting to lose its potency, or there's some blockage here in the thermostat housing, or more than likely there's blockage or sediment and scale built up in the heater core. Now, I could take the dash apart and replace the heater core and not have to worry about any of this. But believe you me when I tell you that I am not looking forward to ripping the dash out. And if I'm going to go as far as to replace the heater core, while I'm in there, I might as well replace the evaporator. Is that the evaporator? Yeah, the evaporator, just to be safe. I don't want to do that if I don't have to, but in all likelihood, being that it's probably a 25-year-old heater core, as sediment builds up in your cooling system, and it's going to, especially if you have like aluminum blocks and iron heads and all that stuff, you're going to get electrolysis and sediment and just schmoo that builds up in your cooling system, and that follows a path. And as those mineral deposits go along their path, they lay down and deposit themselves on surfaces. Well, back flushing forces water against that grain and breaks off that scale, theoretically, and evacuate it out of your cooling system. I'm also going to replace my thermostat. I have a 180-degree thermostat, and I have a new water pump. I'm going to put a water pump in. And I'm going to, like I said, take the radiator out and give it a good inspection and make sure that there's no issues with it. Here's why I think this is not the original engine. If you're going to get a junkyard engine, you want to find an engine that's in a car that's been in a front-end collision, because at least you know the engine was running when it got in the accident. If you come up on a pristine vehicle that doesn't have any body damage and it's got the engine intact, it's probably there because the engine's blowed up or the transmission's no good. So it's a pretty good indication that you're going to have a good engine if you find an engine with front-end damage. The problem with these XJs is that there's so little room between the front radiator and all the stuff that if you get in a front end collision, the engine usually gets hit. At least the pulleys do. And when this pulley gets pushed back and the engine's still running, you see how little room there is between that cover and the pulley? Now imagine getting a front end collision and it gets pushed back a half an inch. The engine's still running. It's not enough to keep this from rotating. It just wears a hole in that front cover. And not only that, but I was inside the engine, and this engine definitely does not have over 300,000 miles on it. Although the original odometer had almost 300,000 on it, and the wiring was deckered, so the odometer wasn't working. So I'm just saying this thing's really got closer to 350,000 on it now. But I don't see any really big leaks or anything down here, and I don't have the money for a high output alternator right now, so I'm going to leave that be. But I am going to pull the thermostat housing, put a new thermostat in it, and a water pump. You see the power steering pump brackets attached to it, the belt tensioner bracket, so I need to take that off. They don't make it easy. I mean, it's not difficult, it's just there's a lot of stuff in the way that you need to remove. And then once it's out, I got to take this out so I can hook the hoses back up. Yay. Here we go. Look at that. That's pretty clean. There's no scale in this at all. There's no debris in there. This too. Nothing. So I think I'm just going to put the water pump back in. The old one doesn't look bad, but I got a new one, so I'll put it on. I'm gonna scrape a little more gasket off of here. Instead of back flushing the whole engine, I think I'm just gonna, get the water pump and stuff back on, get the serpentine belt back on, tighten down, back this thing out of the driveway, and just take a garden hose and back flush the heater core, and then take a garden hose and back flush the radiator and get any debris out of that. Good morning. Okay, I put everything back together off camera. Didn't want to bore you with that. So I have the heater hoses here disconnected. I'm gonna take my hose, shove it in this one first, and blow through the heater core. And then I'll probably do it the other way as well. Let's see how dirty this is. Oh yeah, look at that. That's nasty. clean. Let's go this way now. So the single best thing you can do for your cooling system is to use distilled water with your coolant. And me personally, I buy the cheapest stuff I get my hands on, and in this case I'm using Walmart's Finest Concentrate Extended Life Antifreeze. Bluetooth funnel here. Perfect. That's where she should run. All right, well, that's basic cooling system maintenance. You don't have to take it down that far if you just want to drain the antifreeze. You look on the radiator. Most radiators will have a petcock on it where you can just crack it open and drain it into a container. In the case of my XJ, it's on the passenger side of the radiator, right next to on the tank, next to the low radiator hose thing. And if you're patient, you want to just crack that open, go inside, make a sandwich, watch a little TV, whatever. Come back in an hour and it should be drained out. In my case, I wanted to pull the radiator like you saw to inspect it, and I was really surprised how clean everything was inside that engine. And you did see the gunk that came out of the heater core. I was expecting that. Check to make sure your E-fan is working and your fan shroud's in place, and the radiator and air conditioning condenser aren't plugged with the remains of birds and insects and small children. If all that stuff checks out, then you might have a bigger issue. So if you're wondering if maybe you've got a head gasket issue, run it down to a mechanic and have them, find a mechanic that has a hydrocarbon tester and have them test your coolant for hydrocarbons. That'll tell you if you got a crack in the head or a bad head gasket, and then act accordingly. Hey, it's a cooling system. What can I say? How can you make that exciting? There's links in the description to Amazon where you can find all the stuff that I used here today, along with gear that I use to make these videos. I'm an affiliate. I get a little bit of kickback and commission, if you will, from the stuff that people buy off those links. If you're shopping on Amazon anyway, throw me a bone. I'd appreciate it. Thank you in advance. So coming up, I'm going to be doing another upgrade on this turd, electrical upgrade. Stay tuned for that. Sorry, Ken. Hi, Rita. So until next time, you know the drill. You have fun, stay safe, shoot straight, keep powder dry, have a splendid day. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.